Hi there, it's Vanessa from Cove, and you're listening to the 64th edition of The Networker. Today, we're exploring how corporate events are shifting from nice-to-have gatherings into strategic growth tools, how AI is transforming the humble business card, why networking might be the missing gear in your career, and how Gen Z is reinventing friendship beyond screens. We'll also look at a new strategy called the lumberjack approach for winning big clients, the secrets to making annual conferences more valuable year after year, and a tough critique of LinkedIn's culture of toxic positivity. Finally, we'll close with a reminder from Cove on why forgotten follow-ups cost teams more than they think. Plus, our book of the week explores the cultural instincts behind tribalism. And our podcast of the week asks whether leaders really know how to communicate well in virtual settings. So let's dive in. Corporate events are evolving. For years, they've been treated as line items on the budget. But today, more leaders are seeing them as high-stakes platforms for shaping culture and strategy. A recent Fast Company executive board piece showed how forward-looking firms are using events not just to showcase products, but to align teams and drive growth. Think of events as a living extension of brand strategy. When planned with purpose, they're spaces where employees connect with the mission and where clients see values in action. The real shift here is intention. Rather than repeating the same format, organizations are reimagining events as labs for ideas and catalysts for momentum. This new perspective elevates events from expense to investment. Now let's move to something smaller but equally symbolic, the business card. Times Square Chronicles explored how AI is making the old-school card obsolete. The rise of digital-first networking means QR scans, smart contacts, and AI-driven follow-ups are replacing stacks of paper cards. The new question is no longer who you met, but what context you captured. The article makes clear that AI doesn't just store names. It analyzes interactions, sets reminders, and connects dots between contacts. For professionals, this is less about convenience and more about ensuring that each connection actually leads somewhere. Paper once signaled credibility. Now intelligence and personalization do. Next, the Business Times posed a direct challenge. If your career feels stuck, networking might be the lever you're ignoring. The piece argues that skill alone doesn't guarantee momentum. Often the breakthrough comes from someone else opening a door. Networking creates those serendipitous moments that put you on new paths. The advice is to treat networking not as self-promotion, but as an exchange of value. By showing genuine curiosity, sharing resources, and asking thoughtful questions, you can transform casual interactions into career accelerators. This isn't about volume. It's about being deliberate in who you connect with and how. Shifting gears, CNBC highlighted how Gen Z is reshaping social life. From dumpling-making clubs to quirky pub quizzes, young professionals are carving out physical spaces to make friends. What's interesting is that this generation, despite being digital natives, craves the tangible. These gatherings are less about structured networking and more about creating shared memories. The lesson for anyone looking to build relationships, personal or professional, is simple. Create authentic spaces where people feel they belong. Connection is richer when it's grounded in real-world experiences. On to something more strategic. Entrepreneur shared Chuck Blakeman's lumberjack strategy. The idea is simple but powerful. Instead of chasing every tree in the forest, find the lumberjacks, the connectors who already have access to the clients you want. Nurture those relationships and you gain entry to whole networks. Blakeman recounts how this method landed him a multi-million-dollar contract after building a patient, intentional relationship with a mid-level manager. The key isn't chasing referrals aggressively, but showing up consistently, adding value, and letting trust do the work. For entrepreneurs and professionals alike, this reframes networking from exhausting events to targeted relationship building. Still on events. Fast Company's executive board pulled together 20 ways to maximize annual conferences. What stood out is the idea of setting a unique goal each year. Too often, conferences become routine. By approaching them as creative playgrounds, stepping outside your comfort zone, networking between sessions, or even experimenting with AI to co-create ideas, you turn predictable gatherings into launchpads for growth. The advice is also practical. Block time for follow-ups immediately after. Invest in building real relationships rather than collecting contacts, and connect conference insights back to business strategy. The message is clear. Conferences are only as valuable as the action you take after them. Next, we come to a sharp critique on LinkedIn. Experts from WebPro argue the platform has slid into toxic positivity and mediocrity. Safe motivational quotes, self-congratulatory updates, and hustle culture dominate feeds while deeper insights are drowned out. This culture risks driving burnout and discouraging risk-taking. The article suggests LinkedIn needs to reform its algorithms to reward substance over fluff. At the same time, users themselves must choose authenticity, posting with intention, sharing real lessons, and resisting the lure of easy engagement. As professional networking shifts in 2025, authenticity may become the ultimate competitive edge. And finally, Cove reminds us of the cost of a forgotten follow-up. At events, contacts are captured across devices and apps, but without a unified system, leads quickly scatter. The result is lost opportunities and weakened trust. Cove's lead capture tool creates a shared workflow where every scan, note, and context syncs instantly into the CRM. The deeper point is that follow-up is not just admin, it's the moment where intent becomes impact. Teams that manage follow-ups well don't just store leads, they convert connections into real revenue. Before we close, a quick recommendation from the bookshelf. This week's book is Tribal by Michael Morris. It explores how instincts around peers, heroes, and ancestors shape loyalty and teamwork. Instead of fearing tribalism, Morris shows how channeling it can strengthen communities, improve collaboration, and even spark cultural change that unites rather than divides. And for your commute, the HBR IdeaCast episode asks whether leaders are really effective in virtual communication. Andrew Brodsky highlights how short replies, missing cues, and vague norms create stress and misalignment. He argues that clarity, explicit expectations, and intentional warmth are the real skills of digital leadership. Small adjustments, he says, turn virtual exchanges into trust and collaboration rather than confusion. That's all from the 64th edition of The Networker. This week's stories remind us that connection is both evolving and timeless. From reimagined conferences to digital cards, from authentic LinkedIn posts to remembered follow-ups, the theme is clear. Growth comes not from more noise, but from more meaning. And don't forget, there's more to explore in your inbox with the full email edition of The Networker waiting for you there. I'll see you next time.